Welcome back, my dark beings, to the dark void that ruled by me, now 51. And today we are back to a random reaction. And since it is Spooktober, October, the month of my birth, to celebrate Spooktober, random reactions are not going to be converted to entirely scary reactions now. We're going to be watching anything that involves scariness. We're going to be watching basically SCPs. We'll got some scary stories around. We'll probably and we got some scary stories. I'm gonna need to get into that. We'll probably look on some backroom territory. Probably, I have no idea. It depends. And then we're going to be looking at what was it? What was the talking about again? And then for right and some other stuff. Probably some SCPs on there as well. And I was supposed to watch another reaction thing, but I forgot that it was Spooktober, so I'm gonna need to push that up until after this month. But that's the whole thing. Other thing. So basically, what we're gonna be doing is starting off the Spooktober right is basically some creepypastas. That's right. You really did you think that I forgot about creepypastas? Do you think that was over? No. Creepypastas are still back. Are still gonna be on the channel. They're just not as frequent on this channel as much as possible, as much as before, because there's some other stuff I want to watch. But yeah, we're gonna be watching some creepypasta, and this is CreepsMcPasta. I hope I got that right. I'll have the creator's name. I have the person's name here. I think it's McCreepsPasta. I can't remember. I hope that is the right name. If not, forgive me. Okay, forgive me. I was thinking about it. Is like last minute. I was trying to think of what was. I knew it was supposed to be creepypasta, but I was like, sir, but I had to deal with some other issues, and oh my gosh. Either way, I'll have the link to the video down below. Hopefully, it will say it in the video down here or in the end. Hopefully, it has the name of the end. Either way, we'll figure it out. By the way, yeah, also I did switch some audios around. So hopefully my voice is not going to be too loud and not overpowering, and hopefully the video actually has some more audio in it. I've been messing around with that for a little bit, but hopefully. Okay, so anyway, are you watching it? And this is my GPS took me to an alternative route. I barely survived. Alright, we're going to be seeing what this means. Alright, get ready. We're going to be seeing what more spookiness here today. Alright, get ready. 3, 2, 1. Before I say thank you everyone for watching my videos. As always, it's been a while. I should have thanked you guys a long time ago, but wait, I think I did one time. By the way, I still have to say thank you, regardless of what my content is. I'm still glad you guys are watching it. Let's begin. Take it away, content creator. Let's see.
Come on, I muttered, tapping the steering wheel nervously. I couldn't miss this. This deal was too important.
Deal with
my
what?
boss had claimed this was a make or break for my employment.
Oh.
If I was late to this meeting, I was doomed. I pulled out the pocket watch that had been gifted to me just this morning. 15 p.m.
If I missed
the meeting was supposed to start in 15 minutes, and I was an entire 30 minutes away.
Ooh.
Traffic had been at a standstill for what felt like an eternity.
You might as well start running.
The cars in front of me hadn't so much as budged in the last 10 minutes. I gripped the pocket watch tightly, subconsciously praying that I'd make it to this meeting.
Oh, let's hope, man.
I put the watch back in my pocket and pulled out my phone, checking the GPS for an alternate route just in case.
And I bet you by the end of this, he's gonna quit his job of this. I bet you.
Flickered oddly, then refreshed with a newfound route. A series of some back streets that would cut through the city and would get me there just on time. It looked tight,
some GPSs are kind of whack.
It was my only chance by a long shot. However, based on the city's layout, it still seemed impossible to make on time.
You're gonna need to start speedrunning.
Gridlock ahead of me, my stomach clenched with frustration. I had to take the risk. I turned off the highway, and as soon as I did, the drivers behind me started honking their horns angrily. Honestly, I felt a little stupid,
hoping
that making it on time was possible.
They must have been pissed that you left.
I drove down the suggested exit and saw that I was the only one doing so.
Or they knew what's down there.
The exit led me towards a section of the city I'd never been to. I went through a narrow street lined with old brick buildings, looking much older than the modern infrastructure that made up most of the city. The road was oddly quiet. It was the middle of the day, and as far as I was aware, this part of town wasn't known for being busy. I was making good time, but I couldn't get the nagging question of why no other drivers were taking this route.
And probably why they were honking.
The streets around me were entirely desolate.
Just keep
The road
going,
ahead
don't
of me
stop.
looked endless.
Just keep
An
going.
empty street littered with trash and moss.
Just keep going,
It
don't
looked
stop.
entirely abandoned. It felt like I was all alone.
We just keep moving, don't stop.
The 5 minutes I drove felt excruciating. Every second passing making me more and more nervous.
Just keep going.
My phone buzzed. Something about losing the GPS signal. I looked down, frowning. The blue dot was frozen on the map. I smacked my phone in a cartoonish attempt to make it work again, and glanced at
Or
the
the Russian
buildings at
method.
either side of me.
Just keep going.
Had the
Just
road
keep going
been
straight.
getting narrower?
Just keep going straight.
These back streets were like a maze.
Just keep going
Long,
straight.
narrow alleys stretching for miles, and branching paths that looked almost too tight for even a person to squeeze through.
Then
let
again,
alone
you
a car.
probably went to another dimension.
I drove a little farther, until I realized that my suspicion was correct. The road was getting narrower. So narrow that it was getting almost too tight for my car.
You took
I
a wrong
cursed
turn.
under my breath. The alley continued, stretching into the distance between towering, dirty brown and grey buildings. I still couldn't see where they ended. The pure vastness of this abandoned section of the town made me wonder how I'd never heard of it before. At this point, I had already given up on making it to the meeting in time.
I'm looking at the doorways.
The alley was getting
dark
so narrow
doorways.
that I could hear a slight scraping noise as my wing mirror clashed with the rough surface of the
Is there something in
buildings
the
to my
left one?
sides.
In the left doorway?
I reversed ever so slightly,
Never mind.
just enough to be able to get out of the car, and planned on surveying the road ahead of me.
That was the wrong move,
I
man.
turned the engine off, let
You
out a
should keep
heavy
going.
sigh,
Should
and
have
stepped
moved
out of my
back.
car. The moment my shoes hit the ground below me, I regretted it.
Oh,
The
yeah, I bet you
entire
did.
alley felt wrong. The air was heavy and moist. It smelled like rust,
Get back in the
mildew,
get
and
back in the
something I
car.
couldn't recognize.
Get back in the car.
The light above me seemed to dim ever so slightly.
Get back in the
There
car.
were no clouds in the sky.
Get back in the
Just
car.
suffocating weight of the buildings crowding in on me on either
Back in the
side.
car.
The road ahead did indeed get
Uh.
significantly narrower, so I trudged forward.
Uh,
My car clearly could not pass any
Right.
further, so I planned on finding the nearest business or anything helpful. I pulled my phone out to try to check the signal.
sorry about that.
Nothing. My
Just
phone
get
was
back in the car.
useless, and the
Just get
GPS
back in the car,
app
man.
was still in the exact location where it had lost service.
Just get back in your
I
car.
stuffed it back in my pocket
Get back in the
and
car.
decided to keep walking.
Oh, why'd you keep walking?
I could now see more details of the roads themselves. The walls of the buildings were stained with aged graffiti and trash piled up in every corner.
You should have get back in your car.
The strange thing was that all the packaging was faded, as if it had been there for quite some time. All the windows were either boarded up or cracked. Rats scurried between the heaps of trash, and the air took in an oppressive smell of decay, increasing in intensity the further I walked.
Ugh.
Each footstep I made created a sickening echo through the streets. The weight of my situation was finally sinking in.
Just hearing when you say
I
echo does not make sense.
I was going to lose my job,
Yep.
which made every single step I took heavier than the last.
Yeah, your job
I
is so
would be
important right
lying
now,
if
huh?
I said I wasn't already getting concerned. The frustration of the roadblock was fading away, and it was getting replaced with my fear for my future. This was my best paying job ever, and I was unsure where to go. I pulled the old pocket watch out again, the one my wife, Alexis, had given me.
Alexis,
For good luck, she told me with a smile.
I bet your time is
It
stopped
had
right
been
now.
her grandfather's, she claimed. A family heirloom of sorts. Her grandfather told her stories of it granting wishes and attributing it to his success in life. Passed down through generations for God knows how long, and she'd insisted that I take it with me to this meeting.
They better help you this time,
She
man.
said her father gave it to her after he hurt his leg in an accident, saying he can't run like he used to before, which she always thought was an odd reason. Maybe an inside joke. I laughed it off initially and pocketed it, mostly out of respect. I didn't have much belief in things like wishes. I mean, just a few moments prior,
You may start
I wished
wishing
to
now.
arrive at the meeting.
What's not
And
happening
now,
now?
here I was. But now, I felt the weight of the watch in my hand, a little heavier than I remember it being.
Start wishing now.
I flipped the watch open, its face cracked, and the hands were frozen. 3:26 p.m. It had been working earlier. I was
knew
sure of it.
Time has stopped. Time has
With a
stopped.
heavy sigh, I slipped the watch back into my pocket and continued walking. I glanced back and noticed that my car was now entirely out of sight. Given the road's straight nature, that was impossible.
You should have
I could
stayed in
only
your car.
imagine that the road had a slight curve to it, so slight that it was barely noticeable on foot. I turned around and started walking back the way I came, determined to check if my suspicions were correct.
You might as well keep going the same direction.
What I did not expect was that I would end up walking for what felt like another while with no car in sight.
Okay, well you're trapped now.
Then,
Another dimension.
I came to a fork in the road. The alley twisted into two paths. I was sure I hadn't seen a split in the road on my journey. I might have been too lost in my own thoughts about how screwed I was now that I wasn't making it to the meeting, so I assumed I just walked forward without looking at my surroundings.
Hey,
I went left,
that does happen.
choosing what I felt was right, and hoped I was correct. As I continued walking, my sense of time was getting distorted, so I wasn't sure how long I walked.
Time has stopped
The alley
here.
wasn't as straight as I thought it was. Looking in the distance, it winded and curved without any real sense of direction. The buildings looked decrepit. Dirty walls, cracked pavement. All the buildings blended together so much that I started to feel like I was walking in circles. Yet, I kept going, telling myself the road would lead somewhere eventually.
This may be a living maze. This might be a living maze.
I glanced
here.
over at the countless buildings that surrounded me. I hadn't seen any sign or markings of a business, not even a restaurant or a bar. The buildings looked entirely deserted.
Don't go inside any of them.
For some reason, house someone. I did not want to take my chances on the kind of company they'd hold.
Yep, don't go inside any of them.
I continued on, but the road just stretched. The shadows grew darker, and the alley ever narrower. A while longer, I stopped to catch my breath. I wasn't the most athletic person, but surely I covered quite some distance during this time. This wasn't right at all. Nothing was. By now I should have made it to my car, or at this point, to the other side of the damn city at least.
You bet.
The sun should have been high up in the sky, but instead it was getting darker.
Oh
as
no.
if twilight came early.
You went into the twilight.
The buildings overhead pressed ever so
Silent Hill.
slightly closer.
You're now in Silent Hill
It
now.
felt like I was in a dream.
You're
Another
inside the hill.
world, one that was shrinking and closing in around me. I rechecked my phone out of desperation. Dead. I couldn't even make a call.
Well, you're doomed.
I took a deep breath in an attempt to keep calm. I'd gotten here of my own accord, so there had to be a way out. I'd crossed so much distance that this couldn't just be an abandoned street or block.
Nope, you're
It
in
felt
another
like I was
dimension.
in an abandoned city that geologically shouldn't exist. I knew roughly where I was turning off when I took that exit. This place shouldn't be here.
Oh, it is.
I decided to make the arduous trip to retrace my steps. I planned to go back to the first fork in the road and
If
turn
it's
right
there.
this time, and hope it led me to my car.
If it's there.
I begrudgingly headed back the way I came. And again, the path was not the same.
It's a living maze.
I was sure there had been no other forks or turns on the main road I was on, but instead of the curving alley I'd walked so long on, there were now 3 different directions ahead of me, none of which looked even remotely familiar.
It's a living maze.
My heart started racing. I turned in a slow circle as panic set in. I picked a direction at random and started walking faster, almost running. My shoes hit the concrete with a sound that reverberated all around me. But the alley stretched on, longer than before.
That loud.
Each step I made seemed to make my surroundings more claustrophobic, and everything twisted and turned in ways that made no sense.
First of all, if there's an echo
I
happening
had no
from your
idea
feet
how long I
that
moved like
loud,
this. Minutes.
something
maybe
is living in
hours.
here.
My legs
I'm not saying
ached,
it is.
and my throat was
I'm just saying
dry.
something's living there.
I stopped checking my watch on my phone. The time was always frozen at 3:26 anyway. My head was pounding, and a sense of dread gnawed at me from the inside. The dark alley around me felt alive.
Here it goes.
It's the only way I can possibly describe
It's a
it.
living
The
It's a living
walls
city.
seemed to shift when I wasn't looking.
I just saw
The
an
turns
SCP
multiplied
about
and
living
appeared
city.
more frequently. The road was now diverging in paths unlike before. I no longer had a straight and narrow road ahead of me, but a path that crisscrossed and intersected within itself, leading me deeper and deeper into whatever I was being led toward. I could feel it in the air, a primal instinct. This wasn't just some maze of back streets. I started jogging, then running. I figured I couldn't go on forever and wanted to be out as soon as possible. But the quicker I moved, the more disoriented I became. The alley bent in such strange ways that it sent me spiraling. I tumbled to the ground as everything became perfectly quiet, devoid of my echoing footsteps. I kept
wonder
telling
if you could
myself
still
I
age
should have
here.
been out by now. But every turn led me to a dead end or another unfamiliar stretch of streets. My breath became ragged, quick gasps, and I had to stop for a moment. I stood up and pressed my hands to my knees in an attempt to recompose.
You know what'd be scarier?
That's when I heard it,
Oh, never mind.
the faintest of sounds,
Oh, no.
somewhere behind me,
I
a
was about
soft
to say
shuffle
something.
amidst the silence. I stood up straight,
Oh,
and my
my.
heart thrummed in my chest.
I absolutely was about
I
to say
looked
that.
behind me.
Would it be scarier?
There was nothing but an empty path,
It would have been scarier. There was like
My
you
mind
hear an
raced.
echo.
but then it came again from
Behind you.
somewhere, closer this time.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I worked out that the sound had to be coming from the turn ahead of me. Deep down, I hoped some other person had gotten lost there too,
Well,
possibly
but
led astray by their GPS, and was now in the same situation I was in.
you better hope for
I know
pray.
it sounds malicious to wish
Better hope
someone
and pray
into a
here.
dire circumstance, but at least it meant I wouldn't be alone in this.
I suggest you stay.
I
Just
slowly
wait.
made my way forward,
It-
hoping not to scare whoever was approaching.
No,
God
no.
knows I would hate it if someone sped towards me, all riddled with anxiety from this place. The shuffling persisted, undeterred by my approach. It sounded like whoever was around the corner
Oi.
was so exhausted that they were dragging their feet on the ground.
Well, let's see
I
what's gonna
called out to
happen.
them, telling them that I was friendly and asking if they were also lost like me,
Don't.
and that we
Why
should
did you
look for a
call
way out together.
Why did you call out?
I received no response.
You never call out.
In fact,
You
as
investigate.
soon as I spoke, the sound of shuffling ceased entirely. They
Oh,
must
no.
have been hesitant, understandably so.
Don't.
So, I hoped that approaching in a calm manner would settle them. So I gently neared the
You
turn.
fool. You
Just
foolish fool.
as I was about to reach the corner, they seemed to have beaten me to it. But what came round spiked my adrenaline so hard that I span in the spot and sprinted away so
I know it.
fast I thought I was leaving burn marks on the floor. All I saw
Mhm.
was its hand. A gaunt, elongated facsimile of a human hand, the proportions exaggerated in a way that told me that whatever was about to turn the corner was dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Just seeing the hand was enough for a primal part of my brain
Was this
to
squiggly
tell
hand?
me a predator was about to turn the corner,
Oh yeah.
and I was its natural prey.
Yep. Something was living here.
The echoing of my footsteps was no longer the only noise in this decrepit place.
And something tells me
The air was thick and heavy,
the
as
echoes
if I were running
is how
through
it
water.
locates
I could
prey.
hear the shuffling behind me, faster and irrationally persistent. I didn't dare look back.
No, don't.
I just ran.
You don't want to see what's back there.
My lungs burned and
Might
my
be right in
lips
your face.
screamed in protest. Each turn I made, the shuffling behind me stayed ever close. The echoing surroundings made it hard to determine how close it was, which pushed me to keep up a pace that was too much for me.
Just keep
I
going.
knew I would slow soon, but I forced myself to delay that as much as my body would allow. I took turns at random, having no time to deduce a choice and knowing that the alley's layout had no logic.
Just turn a corner.
But somehow, I still managed to make the wrong choice. I took a blind turn and hit a dead end.
Oh
The
no.
light from the gaps between the buildings highlighted my doom. I heard the shuffling behind me near the turn. It
Hide.
was too close to backtrack.
Hide.
In a matter of seconds, it would be upon me, and even thinking about what that meant was painful enough.
Hide. Find
I
somewhere to
ran
hide.
to one of the gaps between the buildings. I had stuck to the streets and their Lovecraftian logic, so God knows what squeezing between the buildings would lead to. And squeeze it was.
It better be. It was.
I doubted I could even fit in, but I pushed myself in and forced my way through. The shuffling went straight for the gap, but luckily it had the same issue as me, and it slid into the gap to shuffle towards me.
Are you serious?
The gap narrowed the further I got in.
Oh no.
I moved my head, but soon had to commit to a direction.
Oh,
A wash of morbid curiosity came over me, and I took a quick glimpse back. That was enough for me to keep my head looking forward for the remainder of the way.
Oh.
It had all the limbs of a human, but the proportions were all wrong. Its arms were almost the entire length of its height, which must have been nearly 7 foot tall.
Oh, Lord.
Despite being further back, its closest arm reached out towards me, not helping it move,
Keep moving.
just hovering in my direction, its fingers twitching like it was ready to grab me the moment I was within range. Its other hand dragged on the floor behind it, creating a familiar shuffling sound.
Oh, whenever it's
Its skin looked like it had a rough texture and was pale in colour. It sounded abrasive on the walls, pressing in on us, resistant to any of the pointy defects of the cheap bricks that made up these buildings.
Ugh.
A luxury I did not have.
Yeah, keep moving, man.
Even the smallest bumps in the walls dug into me, cutting into my suit and sometimes my skin. But I could not dwell on the minor pains
Yeah,
when
just
a major
deal with it.
threat was slowly closing in on me.
Deal with the pain later.
The pursuit continued as I finally wiggled my way to the other side. I had to get back to safety. I
Run.
was completely and utterly lost.
Doesn't matter. Just start running.
Using the gaps of the buildings was a new idea, so I tried to keep up that creative pattern. I had not tried entering any of the buildings yet. I booked it for the building nearest to me and attempted to force the door open. I could hear the rabid thing behind me squeezing itself between the same path I had just come from. Putting solid concrete between us sounded like a bastion of safety. But the door refused to budge.
Oh, that's not good.
The humanoid figure finally exited the tight space with a sickening pop. Adrenaline kicked back in,
It's time to
and I
start
was
moving.
already in a full sprint. Above my thumping footsteps and the shuffling in pursuit, I realized there was another sound. A ticking sound.
A
It was
ticking?
faint, barely audible,
Tick tock.
but it was there. A rhythmic, soft ticking. I yanked the watch once more and stared at the cracked face. The clock hands were moving in a strange way.
Oh no.
It read 2:11, all hands pointing in the same direction. I turned the watch, thinking it might have been broken in the tight squeeze, and the hands all turned in unison. It wasn't telling me the time. It was telling me a direction,
Oh,
into
follow
that
it.
of a compass.
Now, it could be bad
I
or good.
continued
Either
running,
way. What
and the
choice do
watch
you have?
adjusted as I made my movements. It was guiding me, trying to tell me something. As I ran in a single direction,
You just
the
follow
ticking
it.
of the watch started getting more frantic, and the sound of the shuffling returned to reach a crescendo.
Oh my
I
god.
hurried my pace with the last of my strength, but was no longer running blindly. I let the soft, steady rhythm guide me through the maze of the alleyways, a sick game of hot and cold. The creature was still behind me. Its shuffling echoed in the darkness, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Eventually, I saw it. A faint red car in the distance.
Oh, you found it.
My car. It was still parked in the same spot where I'd left it, as if nothing had happened. The moment I saw it, the pocket watch's rhythmic ticks turned wild, and the creature's pace quickened.
Yeah, get in that car.
All the senses seemed to flee my mind, and my sole focus was on running as fast as I could. I reached the car, fumbling with the keys with shaking hands. The thing was so close now that I could almost feel its damp breath on the back of my neck. I shoved the key into the lock, threw the door open, and jumped inside. I slammed the door shut as the creature reached me. The vehicle shook as the beast collided with it, and I closed my eyes in an attempt to at least grant myself the privilege of not looking at that thing again.
Did you just lock the doors?
For a moment, everything went perfectly silent. I sat there in disbelief, my breathing still rapid from the long sprint I had to maintain. The heavy breathing must have been too much for me, or the panic finally set in, because I passed out. When I woke up, I was parked in my spot at the office building's parking space. I checked my phone out of habit and saw the time. 3:28 p.m., 2 minutes before my meeting. Seeing I was on time for the meeting overtook the shock of remembering my phone had died. I corrected my posture as I raised myself up. I didn't waste any time. I pushed the car door open and headed towards the meeting room.
Are you serious?
I still don't quite know what happened or how I got out.
There's better.
I knew the watch was connected to it. I distinctly remember holding it while stuck in traffic and wishing I could make it to the meeting in time. And lo and behold, I did.
You did it.
I've been back on the same freeway I was stuck on before the meeting, and there isn't an exit where I remember turning off the road. I pulled over in a lay-by, and no matter how many times I checked, there was no alternative routes from that spot. It seemed my wish had come true, as my grandfather-in-law had told my wife, but it came at the cost of this chase.
His leg, he couldn't run as
and now,
used to it.
It finally made sense why it was passed on to her when her father hurt his leg.
Oh my gosh, so that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, CreepsMcPasta, there you go. Oh, it makes entirely sense now, because basically your grandfather said, I can't run as I used to anymore. That makes sense. Because whatever is in there, yeah, if you want your wish granted, you're gonna have to work for it. Luckily he was in his car, but I'm guessing since he had his car, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that maybe it's because that I wonder if he had stayed in his car this entire time, would he have been able to get out? Would he have been able to still be making to the meeting? Or is the requirements for this pocket watch is that you have to go in on foot, and then the pocket watch will activate after you lost the freaking thing, and then you have to go through the entire maze, and basically that pocket watch helps you get through it. The pocket watch will only activate until you actually get lost in the maze, and then with the pocket watch, and then you have to start getting chased by the creature. Then once you start running for your life, you gotta follow the pocket watch, the compass, which is now a compass now, back to the exit, which will lead back to the exit. That's what I think. But that's also what I'm wondering. Would it have still worked if he had stayed in his car? Or actually, matter of fact, if he started making noise in as much noise as possible, as much noise as possible, would that thing have heard him? No, and then it would activate the watch, because like I said, it didn't. The entire time that monster was chasing him, the watch did not like activate until after the monster like decided, after a while, after the monster was chasing him. Like, you know how in video games, like after a certain while, the items that you have, certain items that you had, like in certain games, will start activating after a certain time. You know, when you're hiding from the monster or when you're being chased by the monster, it will start activating to let you know that it's time to get the heck out of here, or it's time to like use it against the monster. Like, that's what I think is what's happening. That if the monster had not appeared, I don't think the watch would have activated. Because I think this watch says, this whole thing, like, grants your wishes, is that you have to, well, be careful what you wish for. Or in other words, be careful what you wish for type of situation. Because if you really want to get your wish, you would need to basically go through this challenge in order to get it. Now, which is why I say that if he had stayed in his car, would it had activated regardless? Or if he had, made a lot, and would have activated regardless? Like, is there a certain time limit? Like, the amount of time you spend in the place. This is my theories here. Like, you spend a certain amount of time in this place, and it activates on its own. Or is the requirement that you have to, like, wander around and it eventually activates on its own, but you have to be lost in the place? And the other requirement, does the monster have to be part of the requirements in order for this pocket watch to activate? That's what I'm thinking here. That my brain is thinking, like, you need to have. Explaining is not my forte, as you can tell. Like, if the whole point of this pocket watch is it grants wishes. So if you want your wish, you gotta work for it. So which means the requirements, you have to get lost in the maze. And in order to basically get your wish, you gotta run away from this monster and find the exit, I'm assuming, which is where your car is. Which I don't know what's the requirements of the exit, so you need to make it run right out of the exit. Or maybe it's because since his car was the transportation, it was the exit itself. Which means if you want your wish, you gotta basically run for your life from this monster. Now the question is, the grandfather said that I hurt my leg, and I can't do it I hurt my leg, so I can't do it anymore. Does that mean that he had to continuously keep running until he found the exit? Does that mean he didn't have any vehicle? Which brings into question, if the character in the story made a lot of noise, it guts in my brain now. If he made a lot of noise, if he knew about this and made a lot of noise, and he heard the shuffling and then just kept like making it so that he heard the shuffle, like keeping the door unlocked so he can pop right back in. Would that activate the requirements of the pocket watch? Because it seems, like I said before, the pocket watch activated after the monster was chasing him after a while. But also, does that mean he has to be lost? Brings in the question, do you need to be lost in order for the watch to activate? Or, if you have a vehicle, can you like just make a lot of noise to lure the monster towards you, and just sit in your car, have the monster see you, go towards you, and then have the monster see you, and just hide in your car and just wait for the monster to leave? That is the question. Let me know what you think about this story. I have to say, it's pretty fantastic. Fantastic story. How you would get lost. It's basically a creepy story where you get lost in a maze, and then basically you have like the claustrophobia element there, plus also a monster going around here, and only the echoes of your steps every time, and that monster like uses it to hunt you down. I mean, if you think about it, I wonder how many people have failed to win here. Either way, it'd be interesting. Like I said, the pocket watch activated after a certain while. So, does the monster requirements here? Do you need to be lost? I don't know. But let me know what your thoughts about the story is. And also, CreepsMcPasta. Wait, hold up. What's his name again? CreepsMcPasta. Keep on going. Like I said, I enjoy his content. I watched it like every once in a while when I was like years back ago, and I'm glad that I'm rewatching some creepypastas again. But like I said, if you want to watch this video without my beautiful voice interrupting, I will leave the link to his video down below, so you guys go watch it. And like I said, what you think about the situation? What's your thoughts about the pocket watch? Is there a requirement just to activate it, like how I explained it before, or do you think that you just need to last for a while? Like I said, could he have sat in his car and just wait a while for the watch to activate? Or did the monster need to be around just for it to activate? Because either way, if he made a lot of noise and made the monster come towards him, will the watch have activated? Either way, let me know what you thought of the story, and let me know what your theories about this pocket watch. Interesting pocket watch here. And sorry that this video is getting long. It's just long. It's just my brain just came up with this theory in his head. Either way, hope you enjoyed today's video. Comment, subscribe down below if you enjoy today's video, of course, and also to join my dark army. You guys have no choice in the matter because I'm your dark ruler, so you must do what I have to say. I'm the dark ruler here. You must do it. Like and share the video as well, and don't forget to press the black bell to be notified whenever my videos get posted up. Or just go to my channel every once in a while to see how I'm going, because you know how YouTube channel is. She doesn't bother. And yeah, for right now, my dark minions. Also, happy Spooktober. Dismissed.